Hi, everyone. So good to be here again. Thank you for co-creating this beautiful gathering. I'm honored to be speaking here today. My name is Henna Maria. I am runonlaulaja, medicine woman, activist, and teacher of natural law. My work is to journey between worlds and build bridges. The title of my speech today is Cultural Revival, Humanity's Last Chance. These are some grave words, but to me, they describe accurately where we are at the precipice of an irrecoverable transition. If we continue at this rate towards transhumanism and digitalization of all aspects of our lives, we will lose the soul of humanity. The sacred original human being will become extinct. Ask yourself, when is the last time that you have woken up with your body completely buzzing with energy? Every molecule of your being just bursting with vitality. Your eyes in absolute awe of this living trillion color display in front of you. Hungry to explore this immense creation surrounding you. Your feet excited to pick you up and carry you anywhere where your heart desires. Your lungs eager to fill you up with tremendous life force, bringing your mind clarity, your spirit peace, and your body strength. Your heart beating with ease, directing the flow of life inside your veins like a miraculous symphony orchestra conductor, creating a miraculous rhythm, the music that makes us and keeps us alive. Your whole being just radiating with joy and gratitude for having woken up to its magical existence. This is the living organism that we are, the marvelous being, human being. So why then most of us nearly never feel this way? Somehow we've been made to believe that it's normal for our bodies to be tired, our minds uninspired, and our spirits low. We have descended into a zoo human being. It is a long road how we have ended up here. Where it all began, I cannot say, but I can name some of the elements that have taken us here. It begins with the family. What was done to our families? We were broken apart. Kinship and trust was destroyed amongst us. Through unnatural and violent means, humans began to dominate each other and dominate the creation. Clusters of self-sovereign villages were turned into larger and larger cities under the guise of development and efficiency. Suddenly, nothing was enough. No longer was it possible to live off the land, for land was taken away from people. Fathers were taken away from home into battlefields and plantations. Rivers of blood polluted our beloved earth, and our eyes became stained with images of war. Sickness and poverty ensued, and generational trauma took hold of the bloodlines. Factories and industries were born, and the Tower of Babel was erected. Later, mothers also were driven away from home and lost their children into the hands of strangers, as the wages of one parent no longer covered the cost of living. Wherein once lived a sacred space, a family union, now sits a foreign invader, a creature without flesh or blood, a faceless institution which everyone is bound to from birth. Government. Separated from our lands, from our communities, from our families, we are an animal in captivity. An artificial habitat has been constructed around us, and we have lost our vital connection to the earth. So much so that many of us don't even know that we live in a cage, that there is another way. Us modern zoo humans have lost most senses and skills required to actually live in our natural habitat. From how to build a dwelling to how to cut a tree or make a fire, how to sense danger or read the weather, how to weave fabric or sew clothes, how to forage plants and mushrooms, how to make our own medicine, how to raise our children or build a community. The truth is, we don't know how to live. We have lost the art of living. There's a spiritual sickness that has inflicted humanity, a dark force. Some call it Wetiko, others call it Satan. Others describe it as the fall of consciousness. Others speak of spiritual egregores created by men, which have gained their own demonic agency and form. I call it the insatiable spirit, an unquenchable thirst, a force which knows no boundaries, which in its unbridled madness wants to devour everything. You can see this spirit expressing itself in humanity as the never-ending quest, the never-ending race, the never-ending need. Because it has no body of its own, it needs our physical vessels to enact its desires. Because it has no mouth of its own, it uses our words to soil our tongues and invert the creative word into a destructive word. I'm under no illusion of the magnitude and scope of this sickness. It has completely infiltrated our species and every aspect of our societies. But I am not here to tell you that story. In my heart, I know that you all know that story. I'm here to share with you a story of returning home, a prayer to evoke the original human being back to life. So this is not a journey of evolution. This is a journey of remembrance. We are here to revive something which is already within us, which has already lived and thrived on this earth. One of the beautiful qualities of the original human being is that we are relational beings. In contrast to the modern way, the original human being did not grow separate from his family to pursue his individual goals. He came to flourish thanks to the people around him, guiding him, teaching him, loving him. And he grew in continuum with the wisdom and grace of his ancestors. We are tremendously malleable, so the human influence from our birth community and culture dictates largely what kind of characteristics are brought forth from the potential of our soul. Whichever kind of ingredients we have as a foundation will develop our soul a certain way. This is not random. This is the law of cause and effect. This is why the social engineers of our time have very carefully stripped away certain elements, because they know what it will result into. When you leach out certain minerals from the soil, the plants will not grow to be as strong. The same is true for us human beings. When you deprive a human soul of the ingredients that nourish it, it will grow spiritually weak and malnourished. Spiritual elements that culture a soul are things like folklore that teach you the living lore of the creation, poetry, art, and music, which inspire the soul, clothing that honors and celebrates the gift of life, architecture, which tunes our frequencies, relationships that nourish the heart. These elements inform the growing soul and mold it accordingly. The more these things are either completely removed or replaced with stories of selfishness that drive us further away from harmony with the creation, poetry and art that distorts the soul, music that is generated by AI, clothing devoid of color and joy, relationships which break the heart, the further apart we develop from the original human being. The more technology we consume, the more machine-minded we become. The more we consume bite-sized, short-form information, the shorter our attention span gets. And the more we multitask, the more fragmented our consciousness becomes. You see where I'm going with this? There are many ways to bring into reality the transhumanist agenda. There are many ways to become a cyborg, not just by inserting microchips under our skin. It is the culturing of the soul that is the most crucial mission to us, since the life of a soul is spanning over multiple incarnations. However we spiritually grow or devolve in this lifetime will also govern the destination of our next incarnation. By the influence and power of culture, entire generations of souls can spiritually devolve or rise up. This is why there is such a systemic attempt to destroy all indigenous culture and replace it with a sterile one-world government. It is an attempt to completely desoul and degenerate humanity. In addition, energetic and physical influences like our bloodline, frequency of our environment, quality of our terrain, purity of our water, air, food, soil, and climate inform and build the energetic, emotional, physical body. These influences dictate what kind of a temple we are building to house our soul. And if the vessel is not built well, there are certain elements of the soul which cannot be expressed. Some argue that this is the real purpose of vaccines, that its intended mechanism of action is to be a spiritual weapon. Hinder the temple, disable the soul. So to summarize, there are two different ways we are being malnourished, impoverished, degraded, demoralized, and dehumanized today. Through the culture, which molds the soul, and through the physical and energetic influences which build the body. Since our modern culture has been stripped from nearly all elements which actually facilitate the growth of a soul from infancy to spiritual maturity, there is hardly any true culture left in the West. But when we understand the law of cause and effect, we can begin to change the cause. In the Gospel of Thomas, verse 70, Yeshua the Christ says, "If you bring forth what is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." Yeah. This is a master key. This is a golden key to healing humanity. It works in two ways. Firstly, if we do not bring forth the reality of our condition, this slavery will destroy us. If we do bring forth the oppression, it can finally be addressed, and this liberation will save us. And simultaneously, if we do not bring forth our soul's calling, our true nature, this unfulfilled potential will eat us alive and destroy us. But if we do bring forth our purpose, our mission that has brought us here, this joy will save us. This, my friends, is why we are here today. This is an activation. We are here to create another cause which will inevitably bring into motion another effect, a healing, restorative effect. This is law. So let's now contemplate the causative agent, which all of you are, the activist. First of all, the activist represents the archetype of the modern warrior. By this, I don't mean someone who is instigating or waging war, but someone who is willing to stand up for what is right, even in the face of tyranny. The warrior in the indigenous culture is someone who protects the innocent, and especially those who cannot stand up for themselves, including the plant and animal kingdom, the water and the earth. I have a mantra which I hold at the center of my work: to serve the sacred, to protect the sacred, to revive the sacred. In the cosmovision of the free peoples of this earth, all is alive and all life is sacred, whether human or animal, born or unborn, wanted or unwanted. The indigenous recognize that every form of life has its unique purpose here on earth, embodying a teaching, a medicine. By communing with the trees, the animals, the elements, the warrior perfects his senses. Every one of our 5 senses has a higher spiritual dimension to it also. We know of clairvoyance and clairsentience. However, these are not supernatural gifts in a sense that these abilities are only available for a select few. These are supernatural gifts, meaning that they are inherent and natural to us as human beings. Yeah. So to develop the eyesight of the eagle and the heart of the hummingbird, the warrior consciously connects and communes with Mama Earth, with nature. This is what is asked of the activist: the ability to cultivate wisdom in a time of conflict, to rise above the base reactionary state of consciousness and meet your adversary with humanity. Many a battle has been avoided by sharing the peace pipe. So we are called to do everything we can to remedy the situation with compassion, dignity, and fairness. But if the enemy has no respect, is blind to brotherhood and deaf to reason, creating chaos and mercilessly destroying all life, the warrior does not hesitate to pick up their spear of truth and their shield of faith and say, "You take me first." The warrior is willing to lay down their life to protect their sacred culture, as he knows how precious is the heritage of his ancestors, how there is no price too high for freedom. Let us remember now that the enemy is not a legion of bloodthirsty brutes, but a mentality, a worldview, transhumanism. It is the attempt to totally sever us from nature and thus from our inner nature. The battlefield is in the minds and hearts of humanity. Secondly, the activist also represents the archetype of the healer, taking the knowledge of healing the individual to healing the community. This requires clarity of vision and proper diagnosis. Without comprehending the roots of our collective malady, we cannot apply the correct remedy. I see that the core issue is loss of knowledge of self and life, loss of knowledge of God. We have religions to fill our minds with dogma when the native people do not need belief. They know the divine creator intimately. They do not need Bibles, as nature to them is the living Bible, containing the living word of the living God to living men. Without remembering our true nature, our divine origin, we are orphaned and disconnected from the spiritual source which nourishes our souls and blesses our lives. This void, this emptiness, drives us to act from a place of desperation as we suffer the trauma of the great abandonment, the disconnection from our true father and true mother. In this blindness, we fumble around in the dark, seeking spiritual fulfillment from places where it is impossible to find. And the more we consume that which is hollow, the further our hearts erode into depression. Our cultures, our modern cultures, are a manifestation of this cosmic trauma. From the desperate attempt to find meaning, we have become insatiable, devouring all of Mother Earth's precious beings, draining her lifeblood and cutting down the evergreen garden. As our eyes have become defiled with images of horror, we struggle to recognize true beauty or the true nature of reality. And thus, we become deceived by the mirage of artificiality, living our lives behind screens, saturating our minds with the never-ending feed, extracting virtual content from every precious, fleeting moment, not realizing that this fortress of data becomes our own prison, further separating us from the Great Spirit. So how to heal a society that has fallen? Through the knowledge and practice of natural law, bringing back the principles of morality and sacred harmony. According to natural law teacher Mark Passio, the law of freedom states, the more moral a society becomes, the more free it becomes also. For only immoral people require a violent control system, a government. The more conflicted we are in our values and actions, the more conflict we create in the external world in turn. This is the law of correspondence. Reality is an aggregate manifestation. Therefore, every effect which is observable collectively has also required a collective causality. But rather than staying as an internal victim, suffering the painful effects of our immoral acts, the activist seeks to become the cause, the positive cause which will set in motion a process of healing, a process of reconciliation. The healer, the activist, must become a master of the principle of polarity, knowing that all extremes can be reconciled, that all polarities can be brought into an equilibrium. If the effect is dehumanization, the remedy must be rehumanization. If the effect is demoralization, the remedy must be remoralization. In order to inspire this healing in our fellow sisters and brothers, we must first begin the healing within ourselves. Only from lived experience can we emanate the energetic signature of spiritual alchemy, how we ourselves have turned lead into gold, our traumas into wisdom. This is how we spark up the cultural revival, through inner transformation which will resonate and inspire the hearts of our fellow human beings. However, the activists cannot reach far alone. To create a significant shift in reality, we need a collective. We need community. Now, I want to acknowledge that some may not like this term so much. Community, what is that? Does it remind you of communism, communitarianism, or loss of individual rights? Or perhaps intense shared living, personal drama, money problems, incessant drug use, infidelity, and bad personal hygiene? I myself wasn't always fond of this term, I have to say. I've been a fiercely self-directed soul ever since I was a little girl. And I was averse to the idea of community because the individualistic culture in Finland, where I was born, had made community feel like a restrictive control system or a religious cult, which I definitely wanted to live outside of. Pop culture and Hollywood worked their magic also and influenced me to believe that community means escaping reality into a utopian adult playground where nobody takes responsibility, when in fact it's the opposite, as we know. But perhaps some of you in the audience can resonate with this. It is these spells of individual glory and conjured up fears about communities that are keeping us from coming together. It wasn't until I moved to the Amazon rainforest that I began to experience what a healthy community can mean. Support, growth, love, the gift of belonging and rhythm. Social structures and systems which can build a foundation which allows us to actually express our gifts in a much more sustainable way. Mirrors which give authentic feedback and keep us humble. I also came to realize that communities equal indigenous societies. And they are the perfect, time-tested, natural way for humanity to organize. I see that individualism is a tool created by the social engineers, the high priests of the secret orders that attempt to rule this world, who have been working to break down indigenous culture and family values for millennia. Of course, the most hunted down people on this earth have been and still are the indigenous. Indu is Old Latin for in, within, and genus means generate, birth, create. So someone who is indigenous is born from within. They create meaning and generate knowledge from within, from their direct connection to the source. They experience life inside out. Whereas in our modern societies, meaning is generated externally. Knowledge is acquired outside in. And thus we are orphaned on the land we're born on. We are no longer indigenous in the true sense of the word, as our original cultures have been hijacked. We have become exogenous. But all is not lost. I see that we can still heal this collective trauma, the destruction of our indigenous roots and the theft of our identities. We just need some good medicine. Now, many of us have woken up to the inherently flawed paradigm of modern medicine, Western medicine. Their way is to numb, poison, cut, radiate, or burn the human body. They separate the body from the soul and are unable to recognize the emotional and spiritual causes behind physical symptoms. I reject even calling it medicine because it is not medicine. It's far from it. I'm paraphrasing my friend Dr. Stephen Young, as he once said a brilliant thing. Medicine is supposed to mediate the sin. Medicine. Or to bring the sine wave back from the extremities into the middle. So to practice medicine is to bring all systems into harmony. What medicine is not is using violent means to silence the symptoms or cover up the sin. True medicine is about seeing how all of the symptoms are connected, and in fact, the perfect response to the circumstances present. Cause and effect. Collectively, societally, culturally, we cannot heal if we treat each malady as a separate issue and attempt to manage them one by one, like they do in Western medicine. We have to recognize how these issues are connected. We have to be able to see the source of the dysfunction and start there. We must reconcile the sin and once again walk the golden middle way. So what is this sin? The Shipibo indigenous people speak of Shitana, which is developed when one is going against nature, when one is going against their own true nature. We can use this concept as the parameter according to which we measure our alignment. How far are we from the natural way? How far are we from home? 2 years ago, I co-founded a community project in my motherland with the mission of collective soul retrieval. We are a private membership association called Kotiin Paluu Heimo, meaning homecoming tribe, and we are coming up to 1,000 members soon. Yeah. Our goal is to revive indigenous Finnish culture and build the foundations for a natural parallel society. And now remember, each of our countries, each of our lands have the memory of our indigenous culture. Indigenous are not just people living in Africa, Australia, and South America. Each of our lands have indigenous origin. Yeah? And the emblem of our tribe is the white female wolf standing in the sunrise, symbolizing the return of the sacred feminine. Today, as we speak, we are launching the first episode of our 10-episode documentary series called Kotiin Paluu Sarja, meaning Homecoming Series, where we document the first steps of our journey home. We are making this documentary in order to preserve the seeds of this beautiful dream and to be able to share the precious moments of bringing this vision from ether to earth. And this will be available. I'll be sharing it on my channels, subtitled, so you guys all can also share and see our project. So although we are only in the beginning, I feel that we have already set into motion a shift which can no longer be stopped. I believe that from here on out, we will only gain more strength, for the foundations we have laid for our tribe are solid. Everything is based on trust and genuine kinship. There are 9 different values which we have selected as the moral basis for our association. Each of these 9 values also come with agreements, declarations, which work as the written terms and conditions for joining our membership. They are harmony, respect, reciprocity, responsibility, trust, peace, mercy, freedom, and love. One of the most important values we cherish is peace. For we are committed to protecting the spiritual integrity of this collective. Disagreements are natural, but we do not weaponize our word against each other. We stick to the matter at hand. If a conflict would arise, we require that both parties join a mediation so that the issue may be solved. If one would repeatedly decline the invitation to the mediation, their membership would be terminated. We have come to see that in order to guard the peace, we must have collective agreement as well as boundaries. This is how we are changing the culture of relating amongst us. And this has a monumental effect to our capacity to co-create. Trust can only be generated with respect. One must be trustworthy. And when we have trust, we have safety. When we have safety, we have the space to be creative. We have a fertile ground for our nervous systems to relax, for our mental landscapes to be free, and for the spark of the Creator to work miracles in our visions, in our lives. Another way we create harmony within our group is by exercising sociocratic principles in our decision making. We require a near unanimous decision in our circles because we recognize the unique life experiences, viewpoints, and needs of each other, and take into consideration the dissenting voices. In fact, they are a gift. And in meetings, one cannot disagree with something without being able to explain the reasons for their stance. And this is how we practice proper listening, a proper communication. We have a dialogue. We seek compromises. And when finally a vote has to take place, we have a hierarchy of wisdom. The solution which can best take into consideration the needs of the individual as well as the needs of the community, will win. This is an ancient indigenous way. Of course, this kind of hierarchy of wisdom and circle of trust can only work in a voluntarist, self-organized, decentralized network of people and communities. This is exactly what we're building. A tribe of families coming together and joining forces around the same cause. What distinguishes us from a religious community is that we value diversity and the individual rights of our members. We do not attempt to all foster the same exact beliefs. We don't care if you prescribe to a heliocentric or geocentric worldview. We don't care if you believe viruses exist or not. We don't care if you pray on your knees or by communing with trees. We are building a society together. It's a working environment. I'm sure all of you have one point in your life experienced being in a workplace where you actually get along with people. There's a good flow, a positive vibe, and things are getting done. You don't stop to harass your colleague at the next till or desk about their political opinions or their worldview. You don't interrogate them about their religious beliefs. You let them be. You let them be different, and still you can collaborate. We can be different together. And of course, everyone has the freedom of association. So you can work as a collective on a large scale while building more intimate projects with your soul sisters and brothers who are aligned on all levels with you. There are levels of trust. There are levels of kinship. This is how the physical communities and eco-villages come together as well, which are in the making in our tribe. So you see, as a whole, we're not focusing on refining every single detail of how to make one community flourish. We see that community is a living organism and it has a life of its own. So attempting to control it too much can stifle this natural process of self-organizing and co-creation. We give space for joy and spontaneity. Furthermore, we are thinking big. How can we facilitate the birth of an entire tribe of communities? This has been our blessing. With our monthly €11 membership fee, we can actually hire and train experts from amongst our members whose work is to develop the operative structure of our association so that we have processes and resources available which can support the many ideas and projects that are coming from our members. Our first 2 years, we have been focusing on anchoring the energetic foundation in place by organizing a lot of events and this way facilitating the real-life meetings and connections being born amongst our members. Yet we do already also have different working groups who are beginning to lay down the physical building blocks for a parallel society. We have a group who is working to establish natural farming collectives. We have people developing sustainable energy production inventions. We are setting up holistic healing centers. We are creating homeschooling circles and workshops where we can teach each other the lost crafts and skills like knitting, weaving, pottery, carpentry, etc. We organize markets to sell the products of our local entrepreneurs and artists, and much, much more. This is only the beginning. So can you imagine what happens when 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 people who have stopped debating each other, who have stopped mistrusting each other, decide to honor each other and collaborate? Yeah? We are talking about a true nebula, a star nursery, a birthplace of an entire culture. From this place of love and mutual trust, we create the songs, the stories, and the relationships that elevate the spirit, that nourish the heart, and call the original human being back to life. My friends, this is my prayer. May our hearts be inspired by the innumerable lives given to guard our humanity. May our souls be strengthened by the memory of freedom.
May our minds be protected by the song of creation. May our voices kneel in service to the truth that liberates. And may our hands become blessed by the deeds that heal our human family and build the new earth. Thank you.
Gracias. Kiitos.